Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, American Comics. Expose the foundation at the beginning, shocking the world. Chapter 1. It's finally finished. Inside an apartment in Queens, New York. Looking at the video content in the computer, a handsome young man couldn't help but smile. His name is Lin Yan, and he is a time traveler. Not long ago, I traveled to this Marvel world. Different from the splendor in the movie, for ordinary people, this is definitely an extremely dangerous world. For ordinary people, this is not much different from the world of Cthulhu or the world of the Foundation. May die at any time. But fortunately, after crossing over, Lin Yan awakening the system. Universal Foundation. As long as the popularity is wide enough and the acceptance is high enough, he can obtain different characteristics. And, whenever the belief value reaches a certain level, the system will also present some special rewards, such as the Foundation base, the containment agent team and so on. After working hard for several days, he finally finished the first batch of stock-taking videos. Ding! It has been detected that your video has been successfully produced. Would you like to launch it now? Whether. Seeing the virtual light curtain suddenly projected in front of him, Lin Yan nodded slightly and directly chose yes. In this Marvel world, strength is definitely enhanced as quickly as possible. Almost at the same time as Lin Yan chose, the mobile phone screens of countless people instantly turned into the same video screen. A quirky symbol consisting of a circle and 3 arrows. And a Foundation name. At the same time, a gloomy light curtain suddenly flickered in the sky. Immediately afterwards, a huge translucent picture appeared in front of everyone's eyes. What is this Foundation? What a big screen, is it a projector? What the hell is this? Why did my phone screen change? Shield. What the hell is this? Looking at the huge light curtain that suddenly appeared outside the window, Nick Fury's already dark face became even darker. Because even their SHIELD's computer was tricked just now, and all the computer screens, without exception, were transformed into the same logo. And even if they tried all means, they couldn't trace the source of the virus. And there is no such so-called Foundation in the files of any department, or even in the materials of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is absolutely unacceptable to him. Nothing can escape the control of S.H.I.E.L.D. Stark Industrial Building. Foundation. What is this? Or some organization? Stark looked out at the light curtain, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. This projection technology is so strong. The person who made this thing must be a genius like me. JARVIS, analyze it. If you can't analyze it, then try to contact us, can we work together? Kamar Taj. What kind of magic is this? It seems that it has never been mentioned in the book. I don't know, Sorcerer Supreme never said that. In this isolated place, all the apprentices stopped the magic connection in their hands, and looked at the sky in shock. It's not magic. And at this time, a bald woman with extraordinary temperament came out of the room and looked solemnly at the light curtain in the sky. As the Sorcerer Supreme, in charge of the time gem, it can be said that at least on Earth, there are very few things and people that can be hidden from her. But for this sudden light curtain, this so-called Foundation, she found out that she didn't know anything, just when she was about to cast magic and observe the light curtain. On the originally pitch-black screen, a deep voice suddenly sounded. Humans have reproduced for 250,000 years, and only the last 4,000 years are meaningful. So, what have we been doing for almost 250,000 years? We hide in caves, sit around little campfires, and fear what we don't understand. Those explanations of how the sun rose, those monsters with a head and a bird's body, those living stones. As the sound sounded, a video appeared on the screen. That seems to be the period of ignorance that has not been recorded in history. The human ancestors hid in the cave, lit a weak bonfire, and looked at the strange creatures hovering in the sky in awe. Then, the ancestors paid homage to these bizarre creatures. Pray. So, we call them gods and demons, and ask them for forgiveness and prayers for deliverance. Afterwards, their numbers are decreasing, and our numbers are increasing. When we have fewer and fewer things to fear, we begin to look at the world more rationally. However, the unexplainable does not disappear, as if the universe deliberately appeared absurd and unbelievable. Human beings can no longer live in fear. Nothing can protect us, we must protect ourselves. While others live in the sun, we must fight them in the shadows and keep them from the public eye so others can live in a sane, ordinary world. On the screen, a small number of human beings take the initiative to stay away from the majority and face those things that are difficult for human beings to understand. Under the light, human society flourishes. In the dark, they fight those anomalies and contain them in darkness, blocked in, out of human sight. The screen rotates. In the darkness, pairs of eyes lit up, looking at the humans in the light. Calm tone, but an extremely firm declaration suddenly sounded. We contain, we control, we protect. We are the Foundation. Looking at this picture, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury was shocked all of a sudden. An organization that protects humans in the dark. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., he knows that there are many threats on the Earth that the public is not familiar with. Superhero, mutant, alien, magic. S.H.I.E.L.D. was established to manage these. See what it means. This foundation is also a similar organization. However, why is there no news about this organization in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s materials? Could it be the first organization to appear? Nick Fury muttered in a low voice, and couldn't help but quietly took out a pager. And this time, on the dark curtain of light, a paragraph of text appeared again. Inventory of the top 10 abnormal containment objects of the Foundation. 10th place, abnormal containment 173. God, this picture is too beautiful, isn't it? The monster in the picture just glanced at me, it made my scalp tingle. Who can tell me, is this Foundation real or fake? Abnormal containment minus 173. Does this number mean that there are at least 173 such abnormal containments? Quote. Countless people who saw this scene suddenly felt their scalps go numb. The entire internet erupted in an instant. Kamar Taj. Numerous apprentices looked dumbfounded. Sorcerer Supreme, is this true? Modu Magician's voice trembled a little. He glanced at the picture just now and seemed to have glimpsed a reptile similar to a lizard. In the creature's eyes, full of indifference, disgust, and unexplainable fear. Although the monster only appeared for a moment, he will never forget that look. Ancient One would like to deny it. But in the end, she still just sighed. Looking at the screen, he shook his head and said, I don't know. All the apprentices were stunned. In their hearts, Sorcerer Supreme is an omniscient existence, how could it not know? Ancient One ignored the gazes of these apprentices. Instead, he looked at the light curtain anxiously. And at this time, the screen changed again. See. In the picture, there is a sculpture similar to a human figure, with traces of spray paint on it. Those scarlet cheeks, chilling. In an instant, most of the earth exploded. Ouchet, this sculpture suddenly appeared and scared me. Thanks to my concentration just now, I have been doing this for a long time. I almost threw away my phone. So, the Foundation has been laying the groundwork for so long, is it just a bluffing thing? Or is it for some publicity? Quote. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. Stark, who was watching intently, was startled by the picture that suddenly flashed up. Is this Foundation just for scaring things? After taking a few deep breaths, Stark suddenly started cursing. Luckily no one saw it. Otherwise, in the news about this shit Foundation tomorrow, there will definitely be sub-news about him being shocked. At the same time, his level of belief in these contents of the Foundation has also dropped a lot. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was not intimidated. Let S.H.I.E.L.D. use all permissions to retrieve relevant information at the first time. However, the results stunned him. Is there not a single piece of relevant information? Nick Fury frowned deeply. It's fine if S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have the information about this Foundation. But S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have any information about this anomalous containment minus 173. As long as it has appeared on the Earth, it is impossible for S.H.I.E.L.D. to have its data. What is the purpose of them making this up? He already had some doubts about the authenticity of this Foundation. And at this time, accompanied by the deep narration, the picture in the light curtain changed again. A string of information appears on the screen. Anomalous Containment 173 Sculpture. Object Class, Euclid. Description. The origin is still unknown. It is constructed of concrete and steel and has traces of spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and highly hostile. The object cannot move within direct line of sight. The line of sight with SCP-173 must not be interrupted at all times. The object's reported form of attack was either breaking the neck at the base of the skull, or strangling it. When there is no one in the containment room, there will be a sound of scraping stones. This is considered normal. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is composed of feces and blood. The source of these substances is unknown. What? A sculpture that can't look away. Otherwise, it will be wiped around the neck. Is there such a weird thing? Why do I feel more and more that this so-called foundation is a lie? If you can see it, you can't move it. Then I said that the sculpture in my house is also like this. This thing couldn't be some kind of movie campaign, right? You actually invaded my mobile phone, which has already violated my human rights. Quote. There was an uproar on the internet. Stark Industrial Building. Oh, there is such a detailed information. Stark looked at the information above, and couldn't help but sneered. The projection technology is good, but this idea is really bad. How could such a thing exist on Earth? Immediately, he smiled and shook his head, and made a call. Little Pepper, help me contact the military. The test plan remains unchanged. Don't worry about this so-called foundation. If it's true, I'll send Stark. The building was eaten. Shield. This fabrication is too outrageous. After reading the information, Nick Fury couldn't help shaking his head. He has experienced so many things. He has even come into contact with the Yuan Devourer, which looks like a cat. But this is the first time he has heard of the information about this sculpture. He felt more and more that his thoughts were true. This foundation is absolutely deceiving. At least not what it advertised. But, what is the purpose of this organization? While Nick Fury was meditating, the picture appeared on the light curtain again. And see the content of the screen. Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. On the screen of the light curtain, a team of 18 people armed to the teeth is carefully exploring in a base. The leader was a red-haired curly girl, Natasha Romanoff. Yes, this team, it is an ace agent team in S.H.I.E.L.D. What mission did Natasha Romanoff go on? Nick Fury suddenly yelled, "Hurry up! Hurry up! Call me all the recent mission information of Natasha Romanoff." He looked at the light curtain. As if thinking of something, he said, "I want original paper materials." Soon, an agent walked in with a stack of documents. "Director Nick." The agent put the information on the table and said, "Agent Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson's team jointly carried out the task of destroying a small base of Hydra today." Nick Fury quickly took the information and read it, then his pupils shrank suddenly. "How can this be?" Nick Fury exclaimed. Quite a while. It was with difficulty that he accepted this fact. The task of clearing the small base of Hydra has a very high level of authority. Even in S.H.I.E.L.D., only a very few people know about it. How does the Foundation know? And also broadcast the screen of the mission live? Unless, in S.H.I.E.L.D., there is actually a traitor from this Foundation. Nick Fury said in a deep voice. And the authority is definitely not low. Definitely, he didn't know that in the current S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra has already penetrated a lot. On screen, the 18-member agent team was vigilantly exploring the base. Strange, why is there no one? Natasha Romanoff looked around and frowned. Could it be that our mission has been leaked? She has been lurking in this Hydra base for some time. After groping for a rough idea of the situation inside, they began to cooperate with Phil Coulson and the others to carry out the extermination mission. As a result, until now, I haven't even met a single person from the Hydra base. Sudden, an agent pointed ahead and exclaimed, "Natasha Romanoff agent, look." Follow the direction pointed by the agent. All agents immediately found out that, on the ground of this base, there were several corpses with broken spines. It was the corpse of a member of Hydra. Natasha Romanoff frowned suddenly, stepped forward quickly, and observed the corpse on the ground. Without exception, they all died of broken spines. And, before they died, they didn't seem to have expected that they would die, and there was no trace of struggle. Seeing this scene, Natasha Romanoff's brows frowned even tighter. What the hell is going on? Someone cleaned up the base before us. She looked at Phil Coulson. Anyone else on a mission? Phil Coulson was taken aback. Natasha Romanoff agent, my authority is not as high as yours, and you are fully responsible for this mission. You don't even know. How do I know? Natasha Romanoff. It seems to be the same reason. Shake your head, she ordered. Be careful around, follow the original plan, continue to go deeper. Wait a minute, who's there? Sudden, she noticed that in the darkness in the distance, something seemed to be watching her. As a level 9 agent, Natasha Romanoff's reaction was extremely quick. Decisively, he used the night vision goggles to look in that direction. Just see, a concrete sculpture with a strange shape, looking straight in their direction. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Drops of blood continued to drip down the statue's vertical arms. Next to it, there are several corpses of Hydra members. It looks like these Hydra members seem to have been killed by this sculpture. And now, on the internet, the pot has exploded. Ouchet, isn't this the abnormal containment object 173? It actually appeared. Faker, the sudden appearance in such a tense environment shocked me. Be careful, don't move your eyes away. My God, you can't really believe it. This is clearly filmed. No matter who made this shooting method is definitely the top-level big production. Tisk tisk tisk, it's too fierce. Hey, do you think there is a possibility that this thing is real? Quote. Stark Industrial Building. Who made this? Stark exclaimed suddenly. For this thing, such a professional movie was made. But he thought of the light curtain outside, and immediately felt relieved. With this light curtain, compared with the hackers who broke into Stark Industries, this seems nothing. The person who made this thing, like me, is simply a genius. Staring at the light curtain, Stark muttered to himself. Different from how other parties reacted. The moment I saw 173 little peanuts, the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. executive suddenly became a mess. Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. Natasha Romanoff and the others actually appeared in the picture of the light curtain. At this moment, the sculpture actually appeared. So much fanfare. Maybe the matter about the Foundation and the 173 sculpture is true. Quick, contact Natasha Romanoff and the others, whether it's true or not, and send them the information on that anomalous Containment 173. Nick Fury's complexion turned pale, which was rare. Regardless of whether the Foundation mentioned in this light curtain is true or not, and what its purpose is, this weird sculpture has indeed appeared at this moment. If Natasha Romanoff and the others don't know, it's dangerous. However, soon, the agent sent a piece of news that made his heart sink. Director Nick, the Natasha Romanoff agent action team cannot be reached. What? Nick Fury stared at the picture in the light curtain, pinching the pager more and more in his hand. Heart, I prayed silently, all eyes on it. In the light curtain, what's this? Seeing the sculpture, Natasha Romanoff was startled all over. She has been lurking in this base for so long, but she has never seen this sculpture. Plus, the undried blood on the sculpture, and the surrounding corpses. Someone must have been here before us. Be careful. Natasha Romanoff whispered. The attention of all agents can't help but focus on this sculpture. Watch all directions vigilantly. This eerie sculpture. It almost made even experienced agents like them shudder. Time. Minutes and seconds passed. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. However around. Still there was only the sound of blood dripping from the statue's arms. Besides, nothing happened. Everything, all fell into silence. Go and see. Natasha Romanoff stared at the sculpture, ordered. Agent Fitz took a deep breath, and took out an instrument from the backpack on his back. Take 2 steps closer to the sculpture and start scanning. Diddy. A sound is emitted from the instrument. All the agents couldn't help but become extremely vigilant. Then, I heard the voice of Fitz agent. This is just an ordinary sculpture, made of concrete and steel bars, with no signs of life. Hear this. All the agents couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Don't let your guard down. Natasha Romanoff waved her hand and said, according to the original plan, move on. Then, she couldn't help but glance at the blood-dripping sculpture again. Although Agent Fitz has made it clear that this is just a sculpture made of concrete. But she always feels, this sculpture, it seems that he has been watching himself. Make her extremely disturbed. Take a deep breath. Natasha Romanoff took the lead. With a weapon in hand, open the way ahead. Phil Coulson followed, guarding the other direction. and the rest of the agents followed behind. Well-trained slowly advanced deep into the base. Soon, the last 2 agents in charge of the rear also turned around. Look away from the statue. In an instant, across the world's web, they all boiled up. Ah, no sight to look at this sculpture. According to the data, are all these people going to die? Shiete, although I feel that all this is fake, I still can't help but get nervous. At this moment, a 2-meter strong man withdrew his foot stretched out of the bed. The sand value is crazy. Get rid of it, and you all need to be vigilant about this sculpture. Quote. Kamar Taj. All the apprentices, the practice of magic has been suspended at this moment. Attention, all concentrated on the screen of the light curtain. Sculpture that can't be out of sight, is it true? Ancient One Magician, also staring at the light curtain. If this sculpture really exists, then. She turned the sling ring in her hand, frowning. Such a dangerous sculpture must be imprisoned in the mirror space. Shield, when did these things appear? Why doesn't Shield have any information? Nick Fury cursed again and again. At this moment, he still doesn't quite believe in the authenticity of this weird Containment 173, or even this so-called foundation. But the content in this light curtain is really Natasha Romanoff's agent team. This made him feel that these are likely to be true. A creepy sculpture that breaks a human spine once you look away. In this case, Natasha Romanoff and the others are now in danger. And at this moment, the picture in the light curtain changed again, becoming the first perspective of Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff, who was opening the way ahead and had advanced quite a distance, stopped suddenly. She heard, there was a constant sound from behind. And the instinct of being a top agent made her feel, there is an extremely dangerous feeling coming. Almost instantly, she turned around. Then, her pupils shrank suddenly, and she only felt a tingling scalp, and a gust of cold air rushed straight to the sky. See, those SHIELD agents who were following behind her. At this moment, they have all become corpses. The spine is all twisted off. And the sculpture that was supposed to be far away, now, but raised his arms dripping with blood. It suddenly appeared behind him. Oh, shit, shocked me, oh my god, although I guessed it might be so, I almost met God. What the hell is this? I have to say, no matter what it is, it has successfully attracted my attention. Oh, look, the terrified expression of this beautiful agent is really perfect. I almost got a heart attack. What the hell is this foundation? Quote. This moment, seeing the sudden appearance of the little peanut, countless people suddenly felt trembling all over. Thriller, I know it will happen, but I still have an uncontrollable sense of horror. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. This is so bloody, I can even see the bone residue. Tony Stark jumped up straight away, the phone bounced to the ground in fright. Even knowing the information about Peanut, combined with the previous actions of the group of agents in the picture, he could already guess what happened next. But I have to say, the picture of little Peanut suddenly appeared. He was still so frightened that his hair stood on his head. I took several deep breaths, only barely recovered, looking at the little pepper who looked at him with a strange face. Stark coughed, shrugging his shoulders, he pretended to be relaxed and said, "How can I be scared? I just want to scare you." Only then did he notice the face of Natasha Romanoff in the picture. Quickly changed the subject and said, "By the way, who is this actor? He is so beautiful, little pepper, help me find this person." Kamar Taj. A group of magic apprentices also looked at each other in blank dismay. This eerie sculpture, why have they never been seen in any of the spellbooks? The face of the Ancient One Magician. He also suddenly became serious and serious. It's been less than a minute. So many people, killed by this weird sculpture. No, such a dangerous thing, absolutely cannot let it go. Inside the Hydra base, what the hell is this? Even experienced agents, but in the face of such a strange and terrifying scene, Natasha Romanoff couldn't help feeling a deep sense of fear. This is an emotion that has not appeared on her body for many years. The 17 agents who performed tasks with themselves. In S.H.I.E.L.D., it is also the top one. And at this moment, they all died inexplicably. Or possibly killed by a statue. Bump, bump, bump. She pointed at the sculpture decisively and frantically pulled the trigger. The magazine was quickly emptied. Natasha Romanoff gasped heavily. However, the next moment, the frightened expression on her face became intense to the extreme. So many bullets fired, and on that sculpture. At this moment, there is not even a trace of it. What the hell is this? Natasha Romanoff was completely hopeless. She looked at the sculpture vigilantly, pretending to give up struggling. Throwing the pistol aside, he slumped to the ground. However, the sculpture remained motionless, still stretched out, its hands dripping with blood, looking straight at itself. There was no intention of making a move at all. And that extremely dangerous feeling just now actually disappeared. Who the hell did this? What do you want to do? Natasha Romanoff only felt that she was going to collapse. She stood up. He glanced around vigilantly, then, carefully retreating in the opposite direction. Go around the sculpture and slowly retreat back. The sculpture remained motionless. Around, nothing unusual happened either. What the hell is going on? Don't care. Natasha Romanoff was extremely confused. Immediately afterwards, she took a deep breath and counted down in her mind. 3, 2, 1. Then, she turned around instantly. Run out of the base with all your strength. Seeing this scene, on the internet, there was an instant boiling. Although I'm very scared, I have to say, these sisters have been fighting wits and courage with me here for a long time. Ha 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 ha. Although, I really laughed to death. She would never have imagined that this sculpture can't look away. It's over. This asterisk turned around and ran. She is dead. Oh shit, I'm afraid to watch the next scene. Quote. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. Stark couldn't help showing a look of anticipation on his face. Even if he thinks that this thing can basically be photographed. But I am still looking forward to the next plot. Female agent is caught, but she doesn't necessarily die. I remembered what I played with a popular actress last night. Stark couldn't help mumbling. And now, Natasha Romanoff, who just turned and fled for less than a second. Felt instantly, behind me, the feeling of approaching danger was once again intense to the extreme. She turned decisively, was horrified to find that sculpture. At this moment, it has appeared behind him again. Arm, it's almost stuck to my neck. No. What the hell is going on? Natasha Romanoff froze. But, after all, she is a top agent whose qualities are far superior to ordinary humans. Soon he calmed down and analyzed it. When I turned to leave, I had that sense of danger, but looking at this sculpture, I didn't feel that way. This sculpture also started to move when I couldn't see it. That is to say, if I look at it, it won't move. And as soon as I look back, it will move, and even, kill me. Natasha Romanoff looked at the sculpture in shock. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. It's a bit fake here. Is there a flaw? Seeing this scene, Stark couldn't help shaking his head. Even a trained agent is obviously stunned. How could he calm down so quickly and analyze the characteristics of this sculpture? But, in his eyes, the look of anticipation became more intense. Once you move your sight away, you will be killed by the sculpture. Without moving her eyes, the female agent could only remain in a stalemate. You can't even blink. Next, how should this female agent break the situation? Shield, seeing that Natasha Romanoff analyzed the characteristics of the sculpture. Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Then he roared wildly again. Hurry up. Has the reinforcement agent team started to move? How long will it take for them to arrive? Director Nick, the augmented agent team has already started operations, and it will arrive at Natasha Romanoff agent in about 2 hours. An agent will report soon. 2 hours. Nick Fury nodded. Natasha Romanoff is a level 9 agent, and her body has been modified. Persist for more than 2 hours without blinking. It's not too difficult for her. Don't be surprised. Nick Fury stared at the screen, praying in his heart. However, the next moment, mishap and rebirth. Hydra base. After analyzing the characteristics of 173 small peanuts, Natasha Romanoff stared at the eerie statue intently. Didn't dare to relax at all. Time, 1 minute and 1 second passed. Sure enough, this statue really can't take your eyes off. Natasha Romanoff whispered inwardly. Then, he took out the satellite locator with both hands, ready to press the distress signal to shield. But at this moment, she frowned. Extremely quiet environment. Coupled with her physical fitness far beyond ordinary people, she could hear clearly. Outside the base, there is the roar of armed helicopters. Could it be that the people from Hydra have returned? Is this really a trap set by Hydra? Natasha Romanoff's heart sank. The current situation. So that she dared not take her eyes off the statue at all. Escape was clearly impossible. When they come in, maybe we can use them to escape from this statue. Natasha Romanoff kept thinking and rehearsing in her heart. And at this time, outside the base, there was a row of neat footsteps. Then, Natasha Romanoff felt that someone appeared behind her. It's now. Natasha Romanoff took a deep breath and turned decisively. But the next moment, she was stunned. Behind her. Indeed, a group of soldiers who were also armed to the teeth appeared. Only, it seems, they are not Hydra people. This group of people. Everyone looks exactly the same. It's like it was carved out of a mold. And, Natasha Romanoff has a feeling these people are like herself. They are definitely the top agents. Chest. There is also an extremely eye-catching 3 characters of SCP. Clone. Wait, SCP. What's this again? Seeing the logo names on the clothes of this group of people, Natasha Romanoff froze for a moment. What kind of organization is this again? Why hasn't she even heard of it? And at the same time, seeing this group of people, the internet on the entire Earth instantly boiled. What? Is this someone from the Foundation? After so long, it finally appeared. God, why do these people have exactly the same face? I can't find any difference. Is this the so-called Foundation? Oh my God, didn't you say that there are no 2 identical leaves in the world? What's going on with these dozen or so identical people? Quote. Stark Industrial Building. Oh, are these the members of that foundation? Stark carefully looked at the picture of the light curtain. In my heart, the more I watched, the more frightened I became. He found, these people who look exactly the same don't seem to be AI face swaps at all. Is it really cloning technology? Stark frowned suddenly. But, compared with the light curtain, it seems that such an advanced cloning technology is not difficult. But, if it's for a movie or something, is it really necessary to make such a big scene? Does this foundation really exist? This guess came to mind. Stark immediately shook his head again, to drive his thoughts away. Are you kidding me? How could such a crazy thing exist in this world? Little Pepper, help me make an itinerary, and set off immediately to test weapons with the military. Shield. Is this the Foundation? The moment these agents appeared, Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. Even if it has just been predicted. But seeing the members of the Foundation appear with his own eyes, he still couldn't believe it. But, after coming back to my senses soon, the first thing Nick Fury did. Then he roared wildly, what are the intelligence agencies doing? There is such an organization on the Earth, but I have never heard of it. On the screen of the light curtain. Execute the containment plan for anomalous containment -173. Natasha Romanoff looked at these agents blankly. He moved this weird statue very skillfully. It's like rehearsing countless times. This group of people always keep the eyes of at least 2 people firmly locked on this sculpture. How do they know the characteristics of this statue? Who are they? In Natasha Romanoff's heart, doubts grew wildly. Soon, she saw these same people. Then the extremely weird statue was carried out. Although doubtful, but Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then she looked at the group of agents again. The person who seems to be the leader. Before she could speak, I saw that person smile and said, Natasha Romanoff agent, C-756 agent, look forward to seeing you again. Natasha Romanoff immediately froze in place. At the same time. Ding. Anomalous Containment 173 Sculpture, containment successful. You have harvested a spread value of +10 million. Hear a system beep in his head. A smile suddenly appeared on Lin Yan's face. Sure enough, the spread value that can be drawn out of the characters in the plot is much higher than that of ordinary people. The moment before the video was released, the Level 1 rewards of the system will be credited directly. A Foundation site base, with 2,000 C-level agents and 3,000 D-level personnel. The containment of peanuts, he certainly won't let it go outside. So almost at the same time, a Foundation containment force was dispatched to start containment. Then the next thing to do is Lin Yan whispered. "Shield, you spent all your money on picking up girls." Nick Fury was roaring like crazy. The moment the group of agents who claimed to be the Foundation appeared, he asked SHIELD's intelligence department to search for information about the Foundation. Result, but still haven't found any news. According to this organization, to the order of that statue, there are at least 100 of such weird things. And they, SHIELD, don't know anything about it. This kind of thing is absolutely intolerable. Director. The agent in charge of the report took a deep breath, pointed at the light curtain outside, and said in a deep voice, "The inventory of the new abnormal containment seems to be updated." What? Starting to update the inventory again? Nick Fury suddenly sank. Until now, SHIELD still knew nothing about this so-called Foundation organization. As a result, how long has passed now, and the inventory video has been updated again? According to his calculation, the things that the Foundation has stockpiled should all be similar to that sculpture. It's all very weird stuff. This time the inventory. What will appear again? Let all agents of SHIELD be on standby. Once the inventory video starts, they will be dispatched immediately. We must hold this thing in the hands of SHIELD. Also, try contacting the Foundation. Outside the Hydra base, SHIELD's support agent team has arrived. Foundation, inventory video. On the helicopter, looking at the huge amounts of light curtain in the sky, Natasha Romanoff was stunned for a moment. When the agent who claimed to be C-756 called her name not long ago, she guessed that the Foundation, most likely it is the newly formed agent group of SHIELD. Very high clearance, probably the kind only Nick Fury knows about. As a result, these agents now tell her that this Foundation is not an organization of SHIELD. And not even SHIELD knows anything about it. And, according to the instructions of these recruitment agents, that weird statue just now, and all his actions were broadcast live. If not personally experienced, Natasha Romanoff absolutely wouldn't believe it, there was such a thing. And at this time, the sound appeared again in the light curtain, and the inventory video started playing again. Humans have reproduced for 250,000 years, and only the last 4,000 years are meaningful. So, what have we been doing for nearly 250,000 years? Middle East. Outside a military base. Is this thing updated so quickly? Stark was sitting in an armored vehicle, looking expectantly. In the first inventory video, that weird statue really caught his attention. He wants to know. This second inventory video, what will it be? I couldn't help but feel a little itchy. Boom. However, at this moment, a violent explosion roared, but suddenly sounded. Next moment, Stark just lost consciousness. Kamar Taj. See the inventory video to start updating. All the magic apprentices stared at the picture in the light curtain. Sorcerer Supreme, is there really such a weird thing in this world? And there are at least 100 of them. Mordo Magician asked. Perhaps it is true. The Ancient One Magician sighed, and said very seriously, this world is extremely complicated, and there are still many things we don't understand. Moreover, many magical creatures are not weaker than this statue. Mordo Magician nodded. Many ancient books have recorded many strange and powerful magical creatures. Although the statue is weird, judging from the inventory video, it doesn't seem difficult to contain it. Far less threatening than some evil magical creatures. And it was at this time. In the picture of the light curtain, new content emerged again. Inventory of the top 10 abnormal containment objects of the Foundation. 9th place, abnormal containment object 096 Shy Person. SHIELD, hurry up. Nick Fury reacted immediately, and decisively issued an order. Mobilize all permissions, and immediately search for all relevant information. But, in SHIELD, there is still no record of these contents. The intelligence department is a bunch of waste. Then put all the agents in the world on standby. Nick Fury said in a deep voice. As soon as the inventory video was updated, we immediately started preparing. Now we are prepared. No matter what this thing is, it must be obtained by our SHIELD. And at this time, the screen flickered again on the light curtain. Item number. Abnormal Containment 096. Object Class. Euclid. Description. Anomalous Containment 096 is a humanoid creature approximately 2.38 meters tall. Subject has little muscle mass, and preliminary weight analysis indicates mild malnutrition. The arms are grossly disproportionate to the body, each approximately 1.5 meters long. Most of the skin is completely free of pigment, and the body surface is hairless. Anomalous Containment 96's jaw opening angle can reach 4 times the normal jaw opening angle of a normal human being. Apart from the lack of pigment in the eyes, the rest of the facial features are similar to those of ordinary humans. It is unknown if Anomalous Containment 096 is blind. It has not been found to have high-level brain function, nor is it thought to be intelligent. After these words appear, the entire shield immediately sprang into action. All data permissions were mobilized at the first time, and related data were investigated. Humanoid. No intelligence. Is it artificial? Whatever it is, it must be contained in shield. Nick Fury stared at the light curtain, afraid of missing a little bit of information. Anomalous Containment 096 is usually extremely docile, but when someone sees the face of Anomalous Containment 096, whether it's directly, or a video, or even a photo, it will enter a state of severe sadness. Anomalous Containment 096 will cover his face with his hands and begin screaming, crying, and making inarticulate sounds. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after being viewed, Anomalous Containment Object 096 will rush towards those who see its face. Referred to as Anomalous Containment 0961 from now on. Any known materials and methods cannot prevent the progress of Anomalous Containment 096. Anomalous Containment 096 kills and data expunged Abnormal Containment 0961 as soon as it reaches the location of Anomalous Containment 096-1. In 100% of cases, no trace of Anomalous Containment 0961 remains. Next, Anomalous Containment 096 will attempt to return to its natural habitat. Seeing this string of information, Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. A moment later, he couldn't help but swear, "You can't see the face, or you will be killed. Then how should this thing be contained?" Etc. Sudden, he thought of more important things. Then, he looked at the light curtain outside in horror. Oh shit, you couldn't look away at the beginning. Now there's another monster that can't see its face. This is really shy. You guys are simply named ghosts. What do you think will happen if you paste the photo of this shy man on the face of the previous sculpture? You are a card bug, brother. You can neither look at it, but you can't look away. If this is the case, my suggestion is to just wait for death. This operation, Satan has to call you daddy. It can't be that someone is so mad, right? But seriously, I don't know why, but I still have some expectations about what will happen if this happens. I said, have you guys really discussed this? Do you really believe it's true? Quote. After seeing the details of 096 online, in an instant, it boiled completely. Shield. This has to be counted. Does the Foundation want to destroy the world? These fools are still watching videos. Are you really not afraid of death? Looking at the discussions on the internet, those who don't care. Nick Fury panicked completely. According to the data of this review, anyone who sees the face of this shy man will be hunted down to death. That, the inventory content on the light curtain, plus the simultaneous live broadcast on the internet in various places. Wouldn't it be possible for everyone around the world to see that face? This is definitely a global catastrophe. Hiss. Thinking of the consequences, suddenly, Nick Fury couldn't help showing horror. Quick, at all costs, we must investigate this Foundation and this shy person. Nick Fury yelled in horror. Kamar Taj. After viewing the information, the faces of all the magic apprentices couldn't help showing panic. The one who hunts down witnesses to death when they see a face. What an evil creature. There was a gleam of light in Baron Mordo's eyes. This thing is too evil. Ancient One magician didn't notice Mordo. His eyes were fixed on the live broadcast. If this information is true, then this is definitely an evil creature from another unknown dimension. It must not be allowed to appear on the earth. Asgard. A shy person. Seeing the content in the light curtain, Loki was taken aback for a moment. When the light curtain appeared in Asgard before, he and Thor were also shocked for a long time. But later they guessed, this should be the work of Sleeping Odin. Otherwise, there would never be a second person who could do this scene. As for that statue, but they didn't take it to heart. As the god of tricks, his knowledge is not comparable to that of ordinary people on the earth. If you see the face, you will be hunted down to death. Loki couldn't help but think of Thor. A plan suddenly formed in his mind, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Although this thing can't really kill Thor, but fix my own big brother, it should still be possible. And at this moment, on the light curtain, the inventory video was updated again. Appendix 1, Abnormal Containment 096 Shy Person, Interaction Experiment with Abnormal Containment 343 God. Researchers handed 96's photos to 343 for observation, and the latter was furious. Then 096 broke through containment, and rushed to 343 after a brief wail. Experimental result. 343 God, suspected to be 096 data deleted. Oh my God, what is this 343? It's called God. Is God also one of the objects contained in this foundation? Wait a minute, that is to say, this shy person in 096 is actually more powerful than a god. How about bragging? What is the meaning of this data deletion? According to this setting, even God may not be the opponent of 096. Can this thing be so fierce? Quote. The internet has completely boiled over. Shield, Anomalous Containment 343. Called God. Nick Fury couldn't help exclaiming. According to what this data says, their previous inferences were simply unimaginable. The Foundation's storage is far more than 100. And this 343 is called a god by the Foundation. Foundation. It is absolutely impossible to aim at nothing, just let a contained object be called a god, right? Is this bragging, or serious? Nick Fury couldn't help but whispered. If so, what are they shield taking for containment? If this is the case, we can only let Firth come back. Nick Fury took out his pager and murmured softly. Asgard. God. It's nothing more than those stupid earthlings who think they are gods. Loki had a look of disdain on his face. He is the real god. As for the so-called 343 feet god, in this material, it is estimated that some magicians on Earth, or people with super abilities or something. Then he was considered a god by those stupid earthlings. This false god, in front of him, a real god, he was no different from ordinary people. And the moment Loki finished speaking, on the light curtain, a dazzling light suddenly burst out. Immediately afterwards, a voice was heard, showing soon, the record of the interaction experiment between Anomalous Containment 096 and Anomalous Containment -343. After the sound appeared, the entire Earth shook instantly. Online, netizens from all over the world. In an instant, the noise was in full swing. Kamar Taj. God, the record of the experiment with the shy man. The Ancient One magician stared at the light curtain and murmured in a low voice. As Sorcerer Supreme, she is naturally clear that there is no such thing as a god in this world. There are even many such existences as gods. The gods in the major myths and legends on the Earth basically exist only in dimensions that do not belong to Earth. And the responsibility of Sorcerer Supreme, it is to avoid these gods, and enter the dimension where the Earth is. The Foundation, did you do the same thing as me in the dark? The Ancient One magician whispered. Asgard. God, you actually made a video. Loki sneers disdainfully. It's just a god that a person on Earth thinks. How strong can it be? He soon ceased to care. Instead, turn your attention to how to use this shy person to pit his own big brother Thor on it. Shield. Video. Crazy. These people are really crazy. Nick Fury, who was still furious and terrified, suddenly widened his eyes, stood up and slammed the table. Although he is also very curious about this so-called 343 god. But what he cares more about now, still this shy person. After all, according to the previous data, a shy man will hunt down all who see his face. But now this light curtain actually wants to broadcast live video. Doesn't this make everyone sees the face of a shy person? Even if he can contact Captain Marvel. But before Team Shock returns to Earth, how much turmoil will this cause? And just when Nick Fury was constantly struggling in his heart, in the light curtain, a picture emerged again. I saw. On screen, an old man with long white curly hair dressed in ancient Greek clothes was sitting on a piano and playing the piano. The whole picture, it was inexplicably full of sacredness. This Anomalous Containment 343 is God. Nick Fury couldn't help but exclaim. The image of the old man in the picture, It is exactly the same as the God in the doctrine. Especially that scent, even if it's just a picture. But it also makes people involuntarily think that he is the God in myths and legends. Sudden, the door behind the old man was opened. Just see, a doctor in a white coat walked into the door with a smile on his face. Asgard, see this smile. Loki froze for a moment. Because, every time he thinks of a good idea and wants to fix Thor, then you will unconsciously show such a smile. He doesn't think the same as me, does he? Loki whispered. At this moment, on the screen, the doctor in the white coat showed a photo to the old man. The old man took the photo with a kind smile on his face. But when he saw the above content clearly, his smile froze in an instant. Then, his expression suddenly became angry, and he said angrily, "Doctor, your behavior is very dangerous." This scene let the corners of Loki's mouth. Immediately, an arc was involuntarily raised. Sure enough, it's exactly what I thought. This is the same way he thought of torturing Thor. On the Earth's network, countless netizens also burst out laughing. PFF'd ha ha ha. Although, this really makes me laugh. So this interactive experiment is unfolding like this. Oh God, sorry, it's hell, but I can't help but laugh. This doctor, isn't he too bad? It's okay everyone, just smile at ease. Deduction 2: God forgives you. According to the law of conservation of smiles, smiles don't disappear, they just transfer from one person to another. Quote. And at this moment, woo woo woo, a mournful cry suddenly came from the screen. Terrible resentment. It's chilling. The Earth network, which was originally boiling, suddenly quieted down. Then, it exploded. Oh shit, how did you make that sound? It's even scarier than those horror movies. Just hearing this voice gave me goosebumps. I'm going through a hole in this train, and this is going to make me soft. Quote. Asgard. The smile on Loki's face froze instantly. For with this mournful cry came, he actually felt a burst of fear. What's the matter? Loki shivered, looked around, and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately no one saw. Then, he looked at the light curtain again. Can't help but look forward to what will happen next. Just see. The screen vibrated for a moment, and the roar continued to sound. It seemed that something had broken free from layer after layer of shackles, and suddenly hit it. And the doctor in the picture. Instead, he put on a blindfold for himself in a calm manner. There was still that naughty smile on his face. Doctor, you will definitely regret it. After 343 left this sentence, the figure disappeared instantly. Next moment, already appeared in a room. From the screen, it can be clearly seen that at the foot of 343, there is an extra cloud of shadows. This is definitely the shadow of that shy person. Countless people who saw this scene. Immediately, he looked forward to it with great anticipation. They all want to see. What does this shy person look like? Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. The veins on Nick Fury's forehead popped out. All departments are ready to start the response plan with the highest level of danger. And at this time, the lens in the picture. It also slowly moved behind 343. The screen moves slowly. The hearts of countless viewers also immediately hung up. All attention is focused on the screen. Eager to see. What does this shy person look like? Asgard. Loki is also ready, as soon as the screen of 096 is played. Just forward it directly to Thor. But the next moment, he was stunned. On the screen, a mosaic suddenly appeared. To be precise, is a clearly technically manipulated image. That figure, it can only be roughly seen that it should be a human figure, which is similar to what was recorded in the previous materials. The key is, the face of that figure was also blurred, as Loki focused on seeing details, but it was strange to find that he could only see a blur. After he no longer concentrates, you can see it again. Shit, Loki couldn't help but curse under his breath. This inventory video is a real dog. He didn't show his true face. The whole Thor plan he had come up with great difficulty suddenly fell through. On the Earth, see this picture. The internet also instantly boiled up. Oh shit, what a disappointment. I thought I'd finally get to see the shy guy. I took off my pants, and you gave me a mosaic. This key mosaic reminds me of the movie of the Island Country. This video is so real, it's stupid. It's even taken into consideration. If it wasn't too outrageous, I almost thought it was real. But one thing to say, the old man in the video really looks like God. Quote. Unlike discussions on various parties on the internet. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the higher-ups broke out in a cold sweat. I just said, how could that foundation be so crazy? Seeing these mosaics, Nick Fury was relieved. The whole person sat slumped on the chair, sweating suddenly. Otherwise, he really didn't know that so many people saw the shy person. How should S.H.I.E.L.D. respond? And this time, the picture in the light curtain changed again. 343's figure disappeared again. Immediately afterwards, appeared directly behind 096. Then, he punched 096 directly in the head. Boom. The long and narrow figure flew upside down in an instant, and hit the ground heavily, forming a deep dent. But even so, 096 still seemed unharmed and let out a hoarse roar. Next moment, then he rushed directly in the direction of the old man. Well, with a helpless expression on 343's face, he calmly stretched out his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Just see, 96's body suddenly floated up. Bump. 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 Then it was constantly banging in all directions in the room. Immediately afterwards, they were directly squeezed into a small ball and thrown to the ground. Seeing this scene, Nick Fury's pupils shrank suddenly. The ability of this abnormal containment object 343 is too terrifying. When he saw Yuan devouring beast for the first time, he was not so shocked. No wonder, this guy is actually called a god by the Foundation. So, it's over. The shy people were finally wiped out by this god. Nick Fury whispered. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that his guess was correct. Yes, it must be so, that's why this Foundation released this video. However, the next moment, he froze. I saw it on the screen. Originally squeezed into a ball, 96's body slowly stretched out. Almost instantly, it has been restored to its original state. Then, charged towards 343 again. How is it possible? Still not dead like this? Nick Fury was dumbfounded, and on the screen, facing 096 who recovered and charged again. 343 doesn't seem to have any surprises. Just a slight sigh. Then, 96's body froze in the air again. Boom. Next moment, a bolt of thunder shot from 343's hands towards 096. The devastating thunder directly destroyed the entire base into ashes. The space seems to be broken for it. However, screen. The long and narrow figure was still unharmed. Directly roaring again. Sprint towards 343. Isn't that dead? Can't this thing be destroyed at all? Nick Fury's eyes widened. He even doubts now, even if I called Captain Marvel back. It is not certain whether he can deal with this shy person. And at this time, on the screen of the light curtain, 343 raised his hand. A flaming blade appeared out of nowhere in his hand. Blazing fire burns. The surrounding light instantly dimmed. Sacred. It's like God is there. This scene, immediately, countless people called God directly. Kamar Taj. The faces of all the apprentices were instantly filled with shock. The picture just now, it was all too real. It was as if they were really standing in front of the old man called God. It even seems to be able to feel the scorching flame. The thunder and flame swords are definitely the most top-level magic. At least, they absolutely can't do it. I'm afraid only Sorcerer Supreme can fight against it, right? I can't kill you like this. If this shy person really appears in the Earth dimension, how should he deal with it? And in the heart of Ancient One Magician, already starting to think about how to deal with 096, Mirror Space, can you lock him up? She reveals the color of hesitation. Perhaps, use the Eye of Agamotto. Asgard. It seems that this so-called god has something else. Seeing the methods 343 used, Loki's eyes also became serious. Been in love with Thor for so long. He is very familiar with the thunder shown by 343 just now. No weaker than the thunder unleashed by Thor. And the flame blade that was summoned is also very powerful. Maybe this is really a god who appeared on Earth. Loki whispered. But that's all. He shook his head, not paying much attention. A god of Asgard whose strength grows with age. Thor and he are only youths now. Future strength. It is definitely not comparable to the god in the video. It's this shy person who can't be killed like this. If I can get it, I'm afraid it will torture my dear big brother for a long time. Loki stares at the screen, grinning wickedly. However, the next moment, the smile on his face froze completely. Chapter 11. On the screen, 343 with a burning blade in hand. It pierced through 96's body in an instant. However, 096. It doesn't seem to be affected at all. Still continue to rush towards 343. And at this time, the entire base has been completely destroyed. Well, watching 096 sprinting madly, 343 sighed. He snapped his fingers. Next moment, the figures of the two disappeared in place at the same time. The screen turns. The body of 096 has already appeared in the starry sky outside the Earth. It raised its head and looked around. It seems a little dazed. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., seeing such a scene, all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. immediately widened their eyes. Nick Fury was so stunned that he couldn't say a word. Snap your fingers. Just teleported to outside the Earth. What kind of frightening ability is this? However, the next moment, something even more shocking happened to him. See. Around 343, there are several small spheres surrounding it. Those spheres. It is a miniature version of other stars in the solar system. In the dark space behind. Except the sun is still turning. All other planets are gone. Wait, didn't he shrink the other planets? Nick Fury's voice trembled a little. This heaven-defying ability. He didn't even dare to imagine it. And the next moment, those shrinking planets, all revolved around 343. Just like 343 became the original sun. Asgard. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Loki's eyes widened instantly. He thought before, as far as the ability displayed by the abnormal containment object 343 is far inferior to him and Thor. But with the means in the picture now, let alone him with Thor. Even if Odin, the king of the gods, wakes up, I'm afraid he can't do it. Fake. Absolutely fake. Loki was extremely horrified. It should be a created illusion or something. As the god of tricks, what he is best at is creating illusions. So he thinks, this should also be an illusion made. And at this time, screen, 343 waved his fingers lightly like a conductor. Brush. Those few planets seemed to be shrunk down, so they directly smashed towards 096. The stars burst instantly. Boom. Huge amounts of roaring sounds, accompanied by endless interstellar dust. The grandeur of the scene. There is no way to add more shock to countless people. Loki was speechless for a moment. This illusion is too real. He didn't see a single flaw. Even if it is him, he will definitely not be able to display such illusions. Isn't this an illusion? As soon as this idea appeared in his mind, he dismissed it by himself. Impossible. This is definitely an illusion. How could such a powerful god exist in this world? He stared at the screen firmly, his body trembling uncontrollably. Soon, the interstellar dust cleared. Just see. 96's slowly recovering body reappeared in the screen. Brush. And the next moment, then launched an attack towards 343 again. Taj. This can't be killed like this. Crazy. Where the hell did this creature come from? All the magic apprentices were shocked. On the face of the Ancient One magician, a look of shock appeared. Screen. The power displayed by that 343 already made her feel a little hopeless. Those means, if true, I'm afraid it doesn't belong to the category of magic anymore. She even wondered, even if she borrowed power to maintain the energy source of longevity, the king of the dark dimension came in person. Can it be the opponent of this 343? Even more terrifying is that even such an existence, with such a powerful ability, can't kill this shy person. And, to know this existence, and the foundation that numbered it. How powerful should it be? On the screen, seeing 096 attacking him again. 343's face also showed a deep look of helplessness. He stretched out his hand casually. After grabbing 96's body again, he threw it in the direction of the Earth. Afterwards, 096 turned into a spot of light, heading straight for the Earth. 343 followed suit. The screen turns. Figures of 096 and 343. It has reappeared on the ruins of the base. 343 with a wave of hand. In an instant, the duplication became 3 identical 343s. 96's movements froze suddenly, and he looked at the 343 in front of him in a daze. At the same time, 343 stretched out his hand. I saw 96's body directly turned into a banana. Then, 343's body suddenly became huge, and stepped on 96's body. 96's body. In an instant, it became a thin sheet of paper, like a flat picture scroll. I'm stupid. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury couldn't help but swear, is this going to be 2D for 096? All the top S.H.I.E.L.D. leaders looked at each other. As usual, no matter what this 096 is, it should be absolutely dead if it becomes like this. There is no possibility of continuing to live. But, judging from the previous performance of 096, it is absolutely impossible to die so easily. Really, in the video, 343 thought so too. Manipulating the almost flat body of 096, piercing through it completely, it was directly smashed into a sieve. Boom. Subsequently, a laser full of destructive aura was released from the palm of his hand. Then thunder, flames, all kinds of dazzling methods were used by 096. The eyelids of everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. twitched wildly. Finally, 96's body completely dissipated, leaving only a white bone lying on the ground. 343 glanced at the messy base and shook his head slightly. Hold it with your right hand. Next moment, the base, which had already become ruins, was completely restored as new. Scene. It's over. Inside Kamar Taj, all the magic apprentices looked at each other and couldn't help swallowing. Just the last scene, those magics cast by that 343. It is recorded in various magic books, and only the top-level magic has the effect. That thing should be dead this time, right? Baron Mordo was trembling all over. He couldn't imagine what it was that could survive under such circumstances. But the next moment, his eyes widened completely. I saw on the screen that 343 turned around and was about to leave. Roar. With howls of agony, 96's restored body rushed towards 343 again. That thing. It's not dead yet. The picture is here. It came to an abrupt end. However, everyone who saw this scene couldn't be calm for a long time. Oh my god, this picture is so shocking, I even think it's real. Shit, how did it end? What about the ending? Who won? Suddenly cut off at this critical moment. Judging from the last scene, the shy person should have won, right? It can't be killed at all. Although this abnormal containment object 343 has many means, there is absolutely no way to take it. I think, maybe 343 won in the end. After all, he just couldn't kill 096. He might be forced to feign death or something, but it is absolutely impossible to lose. Judging from the performance of this screen, this 343 is very likely to be real, is God. Quote. On the Earth Network, countless netizens are arguing about the final outcome of the interactive experiment between 096 and 343. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. were inexplicably relieved. Have to say, after watching the video, the backs of all of them were soaked in cold sweat. These things are horrible too. The bald agent couldn't help but slumped on the chair. These two abnormal containment objects, no matter who appears on the Earth, they can't deal with them at all. S.H.I.E.L.D. plus Hydra can't handle it together. Is there a possibility this video is just fabricated by the Foundation? Neither the Shy Man nor God 343 really exist. An agent suddenly spoke. Fabricated, but Natasha Romanoff agent just experienced that weird statue. Someone immediately questioned, even if that weird statue is real, it doesn't mean that God and this Shy Man are real too. The agent quickly said, and even if these two really exist, they shouldn't have such a terrifying ability. Otherwise, why doesn't the Foundation live broadcast the footage of them appearing on Earth? Upon hearing this, all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. were stunned for a moment and looked at each other. Makes sense. Then, they breathed a sigh of relief. Just say it. How could there be such an outrageous existence in this world? Nick Fury was slightly taken aback. Is it impossible to have such a powerful existence? When he was young, he went to the Kree planet with Captain Marvel. Although I have never encountered such an unimaginable existence like 343. But he felt Such existence is not impossible. No matter what, take countermeasures. Nick Fury said slowly. Kamar Taj. Not dead yet. That shy man is not dead yet. Baron Mordo muttered in shock. This simply makes his worldview. It was overturned again. Undead. There was also a pensive look on the Ancient One magician's face. For a moment I really want to catch this shy person 096 and study it carefully. If it is possible to study the source of this undead characteristic. She doesn't need to absorb power from the King of the Dark Dimension to keep herself immortal. But, the moment the thought occurred, it was dispelled by herself. What's more, the authenticity of this thing is not yet known. Ancient One magician whispered in his heart. Asgard. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. This thing is absolutely fake. It is definitely an illusion. Loki's voice trembled. As if to convince himself, he roared loudly. In the video just now, the strength shown by 343 is really terrifying. Probably not even Odin. Even if I admit that there are illusions in this world that are more advanced than my own, and I can't see the illusion. He also didn't want to admit that there would be such a powerful existence in the world. Even more terrifying is that, even with such a powerful existence, there is still nothing he can do about that shy person. Thinking of this, Loki couldn't help showing a look of fear on his face. Fortunately, he just wanted to use this shy person to punish Thor. If this shy man is so outrageous, I'm afraid Thor may really be killed by him. This characteristic of never-ending death, always chasing to the end, and not being able to kill, is really terrifying. Although he doesn't want to see Thor. But I never really thought about killing my big brother. However, most of this stuff is fake, it's just a video. Loki's eyes flicker. And at this time, in the light curtain, a new word appeared again. Appendix 2, the record of the interaction experiment between Abnormal Containment 096 Shy Man and Abnormal Containment 682 Indestructible Lizard. Seeing this line of words, everyone was stunned. I just finished playing the recording of the interaction with 343. Now another log of interaction with anomalous item -682. Immortal lizard. What is this? Inside shield. Nick Fury immediately became extremely nervous. He just wanted to scold his mother at the moment. Why the hell do these weird containment objects emerge endlessly? At this time, the words in the light curtain continued to emerge. The containment box containing anomalous containment 096 was sent to the room of anomalous containment 682. The container was remotely opened 4 weeks after it was emptied by personnel. The screaming on both sides continued for 27 hours before the noise suddenly stopped. Sonar photography shows that anomalous containment 096 is badly injured and huddled in the southwest corner, seemingly depressed. Anomalous containment 682 is in the northernmost part of the room. About 85% of the original mass has disappeared. Recontainment teams recovered both instances with relative ease. A subsequent attempt to expose anomalous containment 096 to anomalous containment 682 causes it to turn away from 682, jump somewhere and scratch its own face screaming. Asgard. See these words. Loki froze for a moment. According to this data show, this anomalous containment 682 called the Immortal Lizard. Beat up that shy person. No longer chasing and killing 682, but turned away. Not just Loki. Almost everyone who saw this scene. Curiosity was instantly aroused. After all, in the video just now, it fully embodies what is called immortality. Even so powerful, simply omnipotent, called God 343. They are all helpless by shy people. As a result, this abnormal containment 682 actually made shy people dare not look at it anymore. Oh my god. What the hell is this 682 indestructible evil lizard? Didn't you say that shy people will chase and kill you forever? It can make 96's shy people so cowardly. Doesn't this mean that the immortal lizard is stronger than God? It's crazy. When 096 is exposed in front of 682, 096 will take the initiative to turn away from 682. Pissed, I don't know why, when I think of that scene, I want to laugh ha 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 ha. The immortal lizard. It sounds like a lizard from the name. Could it be Godzilla? Godzilla is a ball. I guess that 343 called God just now can hang Godzilla with a hammer, let alone this 682 that looks more fierce. Quote. At the moment this information appears, it was directly discussed on the internet. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the top executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. are also staring at each other. 682. Indestructible Evil Lizard. Nick Fury is numb all over. Such a strong 343, the helpless 096 was defeated by this 682. Although he still doesn't know the information about 682. But there is no doubt that this is definitely a more powerful anomalous containment than 343 Shendu. If the video material just now, and this attached material are true, they S.H.I.E.L.D. are still messing up. Nick Fury slumped straight into the chair. Do not care. Straight away. Kamar Taj. The immortal lizard. What the hell is this? All the magic apprentices were a little bit broken. Originally, in the video just now, 343 and 096 showed their incomprehensible abilities, which already made them desperate. As a result, what seems to be a more powerful 682 came out now. Ancient One Magician also stared deeply at this string of information. She has always claimed to be the guardian of the Earth dimension. Everything that happens on Earth is under her control. But now it seems that I seem to be ignorant. Just like the frog in Sitting Well and Watching the Sky. This world is really too big. Finally, she sighed. Then he turned his gaze to the light curtain again. She just figured it out. If that video is real. So if you want to avoid the pursuit of 096, basically you can only use Eye of Agamotto. And always be vigilant. She is also a little curious. This 682 indestructible evil lizard. How did it make shy people cowardly? But this time, there is no inventory video in the light curtain like the interactive experiment with 343. Instead, a new text appeared. Inventory of the top 10 abnormal containment objects of the Foundation. 8th place. Inventory of abnormal containment items. 8th place. Abnormal containment 049 Epidemic Doctor. Seeing this string of information, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. Plague Doctor. What the hell is this? Is this abnormal containment the doctor who brought the plague? Hearing this name, it seems very similar to this. But I think it may also be a doctor who treats the plague. Healing is absolutely impossible. Didn't you find out? I guess these abnormal containments should be full of weird things. How could they be things with healing abilities? Quote. Online, countless netizens started discussing in an instant. New York, a bed in a surgical hospital. Plague Doctor. Maybe there is an anomalous containment for ability. Seeing countless comments on the internet, a look of expectation flashed in Steven's eyes. Because of a car accident not long ago, his hand can no longer be on the operating table. This is extremely fatal for a top surgeon like him. He tried everything, but couldn't bring his hands back to normal. If this epidemic doctor is really like the comments on the internet said, it would be nice if he could treat it. After all, it can be listed as an anomalous containment object at the same time as that sculpture, or that shy person. This epidemic doctor must have some abnormal abilities beyond ordinary people, right? But then he laughed at himself again. I was so desperate that I actually believed these things. However, I remember that some patients recovered quickly from their injuries. He suddenly thought of something again and murmured in a low voice. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., there is no sign of that shy person in the live broadcast. Just skip to the next abnormal containment. Sure enough, that shy person and God 343 should all be fake. The senior management of S.H.I.E.L.D. breathed a sigh of relief. If that thing really existed, it would be too desperate. Plague Doctor. Nick Fury stared at the content on the light curtain, and suddenly said, hurry up and gather all the information. Although within S.H.I.E.L.D., the epidemiologist doesn't know much about the anomalous containment of this foundation. But the epidemic doctor has actually existed. And the image is mostly the same. Since this anomalous containment 049 is called the Plague Doctor, then there is definitely some connection. Investigate immediately all the information related to the medieval epidemic doctor. Pay attention to the image of those birds-beaked doctors. Bring all the relevant information. Kamar Taj. Plague Doctor. Doctor. See the name. The Ancient One Magician was also taken aback for a moment, and then muttered to himself, according to the prediction of fate, the next Sorcerer Supreme seems to be a doctor. And under the curious eyes of countless people, the light curtain flickered again. Abnormal Containment 049 Epidemic Doctor. Object Class: Euclid. Description: Anomalous Containment 049 is a humanoid entity, 1.9 meters tall, whose appearance is consistent with that of a medieval plague doctor. While Anomalous Containment 049 appears to be wearing thick robes and ceramic masks indicative of its profession, these garments appear to have grown from Anomalous Containment 49's body over time. Nevertheless, X-ray examinations have shown that there is indeed a human skeletal structure beneath the surface of Anomalous Containment 049. Although Anomalous Containment 049 is generally friendly and willing to cooperate with Foundation personnel, it can become irritable and even aggressive if it senses the presence of its so-called plague. Anomalous Containment 049 will become hostile to human individuals it deems affected by the plague, often to a degree that should be contained. If left unchecked, Anomalous Containment 049 will usually attempt to kill the human individual. Anomalous Containment 049 is capable of stopping all physiological functions of an organism through direct skin contact. As soon as these data appear, the Earth network boiled instantly. What? A doctor who exterminated the plague. So this thing is really an abnormal containment that is beneficial to humans. It's crazy. Can't you see the back at all? If this thing senses the plague, it will kill that person directly. So cruel. Do you think he is good for human beings? Upstairs. Guess what the plague is? If you don't pay attention to this thing, it will infect a large area. With the level of medical treatment in the Middle Ages, killing the source of the plague directly is definitely the best way. That's right. And compared to the sculpture and the shy man in front of him, this plague doctor can be called a good man. Quote. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. A group of S.H.I.E.L.D. executives who were still nervous. Also bewildered. Apart from the abnormal characteristics of this plague doctor. Seem, compared with the previous two abnormal containments. Can this abnormal containment 049 be called kind? Even from a certain point of view. It can also be said that it is the kind of great person who does not hesitate to bear infamy in order to protect more people. No. Nick Fury stared at the information that emerged on the light curtain, and whispered, since this thing appears in the abnormal containment, it can never be so simple. He frowned. I always feel that I have overlooked some extremely important information. And at this time, in the light curtain, a large piece of new information appeared again. Anomalous Containment 049 has shown frustration or remorse after killing people, expressing that such behaviors are of little help in eradicating the plague. But then, usually crude surgery is performed on the corpse, using instruments from a black medical bag that he always carries. Anomalous Containment 049-2 entity is a corpse resurrected through the operation of Anomalous Containment 049. These entities do not seem to retain their original memory or mental function, only possessing basic locomotor abilities and reaction mechanisms. Although these entities are inactive, they may become extremely aggressive if provoked or directed by Anomalous Containment 049. Despite these changes, Anomalous Containment 049 always states that these entities have been healed. After this string of data emerged, everyone who saw this scene was stunned. Can a slain corpse be resurrected through surgery? But it only has the basic movement ability, and can it be controlled by the epidemic doctor? This description, isn't Anomalous Containment 049-2 the legendary zombie? Who the hell said just now that this epidemic doctor is from a great benevolent person? How the hell did the feelings cure the plague? I knew that none of the anomalous containment items that the Foundation has checked are good things. Quote. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. A group of S.H.I.E.L.D. executives who were still discussing just now. They all froze. They read a piece of information just now. They all thought that this epidemic doctor might be a kind person with a bad reputation. I didn't expect the slap in the face to come so fast. You killed dead man, then made into zombie-like creatures. Called curing the plague. What the hell? It would be better to be infected and die by the plague. This epidemic doctor seems to be mentally abnormal. A senior S.H.I.E.L.D. couldn't help but said. The other senior executives gave him a blank look. Such an obvious thing. Need you to speak. Wait, I know what I just overlooked. Nick Fury suddenly yelled. He stared at the screen. He said in horror. The word, so-called, is used in the information. That is to say, the plague that the plague doctor said probably does not really exist, but the plague doctor thinks it exists. In this case, That is to say, if the epidemic doctor really appeared on the Earth, it is likely to form a catastrophe sweeping the world. After all, if you touch someone, you will die. And making human corpses into zombie-like abilities. It's really scary. The key is, according to the information in the inventory video, this epidemic doctor, it's different from the statues and shy people who only cause danger when their characteristics are triggered. This is an intelligent creature. The level of threat has been greatly increased. New York in the other direction. Plague Doctor can transform human corpses into abnormal containment object 0492. Natasha Romanoff couldn't help shaking. In her mind, she couldn't help but think that when she was in the Red Room, the picture when I was transformed, the epidemic doctor's surgery, it should be a similar technique. It's just that this kind of technology is definitely not mastered by humans. Can make the corpse come back to life, and obey the command. If those guys in the Red Room knew this technique, they would probably go crazy with excitement, right? What is the origin of this foundation? She just felt that her mood was a little confused. Something weird like this. How many are there? And at this time, in the light curtain, the screen has reappeared. Screen. It's a desert that looks like it's in the middle of a war zone. Immediately afterwards, the screen rotates. A comatose figure with a hose inserted in his nasal cavity appeared in the screen. Seeing this figure, countless people were stunned for a moment. What? Isn't this Stark? God, hell, looks like it really is him. That playboy from Stag Military Industries. Oh my God, Stark is actually in the live broadcast. What's the origin of the organization that made this stock-taking video, so that this playboy can actually participate in the performance? Quote. Unlike Natasha Romanoff, on the internet, Stark's reputation as a playboy is very big. Many people know him. So when Stark's face actually appeared in the inventory video, online, countless people were dumbfounded immediately. I'm numb. Is there a possibility that this video is real? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Do you still believe that such weird sculptures really exist in this world? Probably just an actor who looks alike. Wait. Something seems wrong. I just checked the information. Stark seems to have really lost contact. Don't scare me. If these things really exist, then it's okay. Quote. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. In the inventory of this abnormal containment object 049, there is actually a live broadcast. The bald agent breathed a sigh of relief. So, this proves even more that the shy person and the so-called god are definitely fake. Stark's profile. It was also delivered to Nick Fury in the first place. Stark tested weapons in the military and got kidnapped. Nick Fury spoke in a deep voice, and gave an order. The special operations team formed before is dispatched. Kamar Taj. The moment I saw Stark, the pupils of Ancient One Magician shrank suddenly. In her foreseeable future, Stark is a very important person to Earth. But now it actually appeared in the live broadcast of the inventory video. Will it? What an accident. On her face, exposing the color of extreme hesitation. On the screen, Stark turned his body with difficulty. But found, there are 2 wires plugged into his body, connected to his chest. A big hole actually appeared in his chest. A special circular coil is installed inside. Or, nuclear reactor. If I were you, I wouldn't move. A shaved man next to him spoke. He turned around, looked at Stark and said, I've tried to remove as much shrapnel as possible from your chest, but there's still a lot left, and the blood is flowing towards your heart. This thing can kill you. Stark froze for a moment, dazedly touched the nuclear reactor on his chest. Where is this place, and who are you? My name is Yinsen, I can be regarded as a doctor. Yinsen looked in the mirror and said, just now I saved your life. When he wanted to say something, Doctor, I never expected to meet a medical staff like me in this plague-filled place. A voice of surprise suddenly sounded. Stark and Yinsen were taken aback at the same time. Looking at the source of the sound. Just see, a tall figure in a black robe and beak costume appeared in front of them. Looking at this strange figure that suddenly appeared, both Stark and Dr. Yinsen were stunned. Yinsen felt a burst of panic for no reason. This feeling, it's a feeling that I don't have at all in the face of those terrorists. And, this is the Middle East, the lair of those terrorists. Why does one appear Someone in the costume of a medieval doctor with a beak. And Stark couldn't help shaking all over. Strange to say. He looked at the tall figure in front of him. Inexplicably, the inventory of the abnormal containment seen from the light curtain before emerged in his mind. Always feel. This figure and that sculpture, and that shy man. It's the same kind of thing. When is this? Why am I still thinking about what's there and what's not? But he still shook his head and shook the thought out of his mind. Some memory fragments flashed in his mind. Doctor, are you a doctor too? Yin Sen looked at the epidemic doctor and asked, you were also caught here by those terrorists? How should I put it? To be precise, I found it here. The plague doctor looked around, pacing back and forth in this dirty and simple cave. Then, he said with great satisfaction, well, yes, this place is simply too clean. Clean. Hearing this sentence, Yinsen couldn't help but glanced at the garbage in the cave and the several corpses on the ground. A look of incomprehension appeared on his face. The small eyes were full of great doubts. See this scene. Everyone on the internet immediately burst out laughing. I originally watched it as a horror movie, but you suddenly gave me a funny clip. PFF ha ha ha. Dr. Yinsen's puzzled expression really makes me laugh to death. I can see several corpses, and the blood hasn't drained yet, you call this clean? Quote. Shield. A high-ranking shield could not help but feel weird. It is really the same as recorded in the data. This plague doctor. It seems very kind. With the sculptures counted earlier, and the shy man. Totally different. The difficulty of containment is not very great. In the light curtain, the picture continues. This person is estimated to have been kidnapped by terrorists for too long and has lost his mind. Stark and Yinsen exchanged glances and nodded slightly. The plague doctor didn't seem to notice Stark and Yinsen's reaction at all, and began to observe the cave by himself. Well, it's a miracle. This place is so close to the plague, but there is no trace of the plague at all. The epidemic doctor's voice was very satisfied. Plague. Yinsen was taken aback, and couldn't help asking, what? Germs. There are too many corpses here, and it is indeed easy to produce germs and plague outbreaks. But the medical conditions here are too weak, and there is nothing he can do. Apocalypse. Mass extinction. Heck, you know, that, The epidemic doctor explained it, as if he was thinking about the appropriate wording. After a while, he actually became more and more angry. He even hammered his own temple, saying, what do they call it, then? Forget it. Many people have already succumbed, and more people will succumb until a perfect cure for it can be developed methods. He slumped directly on the ground and said, you see, it is my life's duty to free the world from its threat. The cure that ends all cures. So, do you understand? Quote. Yinsen looked at the epidemic doctor with a confused face. Seeing this scene, the audience on the internet couldn't help it anymore and laughed out loud. PFF ha ha ha. I really can't help but want to laugh. I've said a lot of shit, but it still means nothing. Explained, but not fully explained. Yinsen, would you like to hear what you're talking about? The more I think about it, the angrier I get. I was so angry that I punched myself twice. I laughed to death. Why do I think this epidemic doctor is stupid? Quote. Asgard. This abnormal Containment 049 epidemic doctor. Seeing the reaction of the epidemic doctor, the corner of Loki's mouth couldn't help but twitch. In mind, a very familiar figure appeared involuntarily. Absolutely the same idiot as Thor. Middle East. I was stunned for a moment. Dr. Yinsen finally reacted. Looking at the medieval costume of the plague doctor. After hesitating for a moment, he said, as the plague you call the Black Death. He felt that there might be something wrong with the epidemic doctor's mental state, and he thought he was a medieval doctor with a bird's beak. Then the only plague that the plague doctor spoke of was the Black Death that swept across Europe. This time, it was the plague doctor's turn to be stunned. Black Death. What is that? I don't know. Yinsen. Stark on the side couldn't help but roll his eyes. This strangely dressed man, not only is he mentally ill, but he is also illiterate. They don't even know about the Black Death. And he was wearing the costume of a medieval doctor with a bird's beak. It's outrageous. Forget it. The most important thing now is to live. What are you thinking about? Online, countless spectators also boiled up again. Wearing a medieval doctor's beak suit, one mouthful of plague, a normal person would think it was the Black Death, right? But he didn't know. Drive Yinsen is probably suspicious of life, ha ha ha. So after a long time, is this epidemic doctor just a funny character? I'm afraid it's because the Foundation is afraid that we will be frightened, so it deliberately created this abnormal containment to adjust the atmosphere. Quote. Kamar Taj. The faces of all the magic apprentices also showed a look of bewilderment. The first moment the epidemic doctor appeared, even though they were separated by the light curtain, they felt a burst of fear. When the sculpture appeared before, it's the same fear. But unexpectedly, the next picture of the epidemic doctor is like this. However, just then, on screen, the plague doctor who was sitting on the ground very comfortably. Suddenly, he tensed his muscles and stood up. Then, seriously, he turned around and looked behind him. Immediately afterwards, an extremely angry voice suddenly sounded, "Plague! Plague! The plague is coming again." The epidemic doctor stood up abruptly and roared angrily. Even through a mask, but Stark can still feel it. The person under the bird's beak doctor's costume seemed to become angry in an instant. No, more specifically, it's like the person under the clothes has changed. Just for a moment, Stark couldn't help standing on his head for a while. The fear that this plague doctor brought when he first appeared seemed to resurface again. For a moment, in Stark's mind, then involuntarily reappeared the figure of the sculpture I saw before. It made him shiver uncontrollably. And Yinsen. He was also taken aback, and looked at the epidemic doctor in a daze. What plague? Didn't you just say that this place is very clean without any plague? It didn't take a few seconds. Is this where the plague is coming? But the next moment, the bewilderment on his face turned into panic again. Be careful. Yinsen hurriedly made a silent gesture, and said, "This is the old den of those terrorists." If he wasn't a doctor and still useful, those terrorists would have killed him long ago. Now this beak doctor is yelling so loudly. If those terrorists are angered, they will never survive. But, he hasn't finished speaking yet. I saw the terrorist who was in charge of detaining them, holding a rifle, walking in this direction with a look of anger on his face. You guys, what is the dog barking? Who are you? When did you appear here? Yinsen suddenly thought something bad in his heart. Then, there is indeed a plague coming here. The plague that must be eradicated. He heard an even more angry voice. Immediately after seeing that psychopath wearing a bird's beak doctor's costume actually rushed towards those terrorists. It's over. Not only is this guy going to die, he may even drag us to death. Everyone. Yinsen looked numb. Then he saw that strange bird-beaked doctor ran to those terrorists. Stretch out 5 dry fingers that look like branches, and lightly touch the 2 terrorists. Immediately afterwards, plop, the 2 terrorists fell straight to the ground. He died like that. Yinsen and Stark froze immediately. His eyes also instantly became terrified. They looked at each other. Then turned his head with difficulty, looked at the epidemic doctor. There was unspeakable fear in his eyes. What's the situation? It's just a touch. How did these terrorists die? This, Abba. Yinsen couldn't speak, and collapsed on the ground, pointing at the epidemic doctor in horror. His worldview has collapsed a bit. Stark wasn't much better either. In his mind, the figure of the sculpture emerged again. This plague doctor is as weird as the sculpture in the light curtain inventory. Shouldn't, an idea came to mind. Stark's face became extremely pale in an instant. Why did he die again? This will not help at all to eliminate the plague. But at this time, an extremely annoyed voice suddenly sounded. Stark and Yinsen turned their heads with difficulty. Just see. The plague doctor shook his head, and seemed to be talking to himself. But it's okay, as a doctor, I can help you cure this plague completely. Then, I saw the epidemic doctor from the small black medical bag. He took out densely packed surgical tools, which almost covered the entire table. There is even a 2-meter-long saw. Stark and Yinsen's eyes straightened immediately. In such a small medical bag, how did you come up with so many things? Then, the epidemic doctor began to perform surgery. Then, Stark and Yinsen, I just saw a scene that they didn't want to recall in their entire life. Seeing this set of pictures, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. turned pale. Even though they are all specially trained, But seeing such a disgusting picture, I still couldn't help but want to vomit. Even they are like this, let alone other people on the internet. Ouch. God, you guys just released this picture like this. Ah, that's disgusting. Oh my God, this is too bloody, isn't it? It's even more disgusting than those bloody videos I watched in northern Myanmar before. Ouch, this is too real, isn't it? Who just said that the epidemic doctor is a funny character? Ah. I dare say that this is definitely not the effect that props can produce. It is absolutely true. Quote. In that cave in the Middle East. This, vomit. Stark couldn't take it anymore and vomited. He is a playboy, when has he seen such a scene? Mr. Stark, don't panic, puke. Yinsen's expression was also extremely uncomfortable. Even though he is a professional doctor, he has operated on many gross teachers and cadavers. But this was the first time he had seen such a disgusting scene. What the hell is the plague? Need this surgical approach to cure? 10 minutes later, the plague doctor finally stopped. The voice under the beak mask. Calm was restored again. Even some joy. Although it was rough, the operation was successful. My treatment is indeed effective. Although it is not perfect, it can be regarded as a success, isn't it? Hear this voice. Stark and Yinsen exchanged glances. Always felt, what this means, I'm afraid it's not that simple. However, although it is very scary. But, apart from fear, they were also really curious. What does the beak doctor mean by the so-called successful operation? What's the use of becoming a function after performing surgery on a dead person? Is it possible to bring dead man back to life? Stark muttered something under his breath, as if to ease his fear. Could it be possible to bring dead man back to life? Hearing this sentence, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents couldn't help but become weird. According to previous data, epidemiologists seemed to be able to do it. Immediately, there was a sense of anticipation in their hearts. I really want to see it. If Stark really sees these corpses come to life, what expression will it be? Cough. Nick Fury coughed involuntarily, and said, don't focus on this, what we should care about is how we S.H.I.E.L.D. should deal with it next. But while speaking, his eyes have also been staring at the light curtain intently. He also wanted to see what would happen next. And at this moment, on the screen of the light curtain, after Stark just said this, then see, those two terrorists who were already dead and couldn't die anymore. He stood up unsteadily. Stark's breath stopped suddenly. This, really alive. A moment later, he widened his eyes, pointed at the two terrorists, and wanted to exclaim. However, he found that, at this moment, I was so nervous that I couldn't say a word. And Dr. Yinsen at the side. He was so frightened that he passed out. Seeing this scene, on the internet, countless viewers burst out laughing. PFF'd ha ha ha. I laughed so hard, I've already taken a screenshot. It's rare to see a dude like Stark. It's crazy, Stark's acting skills are so good. I really can't see any flaws. Really, this is absolutely true. Stark's expression is absolutely impossible to act. This epidemic doctor is real, the Foundation is real, and those abnormal containments are also real. One of them has gone crazy upstairs, take it away. It's reasonable, although I'm scared, but now I also feel that this thing is probably true. Quote. Beautiful country military. In a certain military base. Is this really a Stark? After a long period of shock, Colonel Rhodes silently took the picture of Stark and saved it. No matter what happens next, a good gay friend is afraid to such an extent, but he has to keep it. Middle East. Inside the cave. It's been a long time. Stark's mood gradually calmed down, constantly muttering to himself. Really, it's actually true. In that case, the sculpture before, and the shy man, are actually real. But, when he looked at the two terrorists, his eyes were still full of horror. And at this moment, Dr. Yinsen also woke up. Seeing those two swaying terrorists, his eyes widened immediately. He muttered to himself in disbelief, am I still dreaming? After a while, it was with difficulty that he accepted this fact. Then, after extreme fear, his eyes gradually became excited again. And at this time, the epidemic doctor has regained his calm again, and said, okay, the cure has been completed, gentlemen, it's time for us to leave here. At this moment, Yinsen couldn't help asking, Mr. Epidemic Doctor, these two people are already dead, did you just revive them? There was excitement in his eyes. What an amazing technology to be able to resurrect dead man through surgery. For him, this attraction is simply infinite. Even the resurrected one doesn't seem to be perfect. Well, in a sense, yes. You're making things too easy, doctor. The epidemic doctor stood up and walked outside while talking. Broaden your horizons. Life and death, disease and health are all amateur doctor's terms. Yinsen was stunned for a moment. He has learned medical knowledge for so long. In front of this epidemic doctor, it seems that it is all amateurish language. But he still chose to follow the epidemic doctor and walked out of the cave. Stark hesitated for a while, and chose to keep up. There is only one disease in the world, and that is the plague. Nothing else. Hearing this sentence, Yinsen followed the gaze of the epidemic doctor and looked out. Plague, then. He was completely stunned, and Stark following behind. Then he sucked in a breath of cold air for an instant. A strong cold air poured directly into his Tianlinggai from the soles of his feet in an instant. I saw, outside the cave, all those who were killed. The terrorist who was cured by the epidemic doctor again. Standing outside densely, their eyes are all empty and full of incongruity. Even, many terrorists' limbs were connected to the wrong position. This scene, extremely infiltrating. All those who saw this scene. I just feel an indescribable sense of horror blowing over my face. These things, are they monsters from hell? This is too frightening, isn't it? Oh my god, I almost thought it was a wave of zombies. SHTI, isn't this too infiltrating? These things were all killed by the plague doctor and then resurrected. This is simply the set of a supernatural film. Quote. Shield, hiss, seeing this horrible scene. All SHIELD agents, they couldn't help but sucked in a breath of cold air. Quick, hurry up and contact the agent team that was sent before, and temporarily cancel the plan. Nick Fury gave the order decisively. Are you kidding me? So many terrorists, they were all silently killed by the plague doctor, and all of them were made into the so-called abnormal containment object 0492. The agent they sent out before SHIELD, in case it is identified as the source of the plague by this plague doctor. Wouldn't that be looking for death? Such a dangerous thing. Let's hand it over to that foundation for containment. This plague doctor, isn't he too crazy? Who said just now that this thing is not difficult to contain? If you have the ability to stand up and say this again. This plague doctor is simply a lunatic. A lunatic, what a shitty plague. Quote. All the senior executives of SHIELD couldn't help cursing angrily. And Nick Fury, it was lost in thought. What the epidemic doctor just said. It kept popping up in his mind. He felt strangely. The epidemic doctor said, it's so logical, a very crazy idea. Unconsciously formed in his mind. Kamar Taj, this epidemic doctor should be a creature with a special ability but extremely paranoid, or in other words, deceived. Baron Mordo said. All the magic apprentices nodded. What the epidemic doctor said may not necessarily be false. And at this time, the voice of Ancient One Magician suddenly sounded. Baron Mordo was taken aback. Just heard, Ancient One Magician continued. The dimensions of the universe are inexhaustible, and no one can determine what is the truth. What if, what we see is just the appearance, but this epidemic doctor sees the essence that we have never seen? If the plague he talks about really exists, is he really saving all living beings? Hearing the words of the Ancient One Magician, the whole of Kamar Taj suddenly fell silent. All apprentices of magic, all of them, including Baron Mordo, looked at the Ancient One Magician in disbelief. No way, this passage from Ancient One Magician. It's almost like that all the terrorists in the entire terrorist base have been made into abnormal containment object 0492. Even more terrifying, what the epidemic doctor sees as the essence of the world. Does the plague in its mouth really exist? What a joke. Who knows? The Ancient One Magician stared at the light curtain and sighed. Outside the cave, Dr. Yinsen looked at the abnormal containment 0492 all over the mountains and plains. The eyes are full of complicated colors. In addition to fear, there is still a little excitement. He kept muttering what the plague doctor just said. Life and death, sickness and health, are amateur phrases of amateur physicians. There is only one disease in the world, and that is the plague. Stark couldn't help but sneak a glance at him. Then, quietly moved away from Yinsen's position. Dr. Yinsen has been brainwashed by this monster, he said silently in his heart. Boom boom boom. And at this moment, there was a sudden roar in the sky. Stark looked up. Just see, a helicopter gunship landed slowly. Then, a team of well-trained and identical agents stepped out of the armed helicopter. Seeing the logos on the chests of these agents, Stark's pupils shrank suddenly. Even if it has been guessed for a long time. But he trembled unconsciously. Foundation. The content in that light curtain is actually true. Da da da, da da da, da da da, with the sound of guns. The finished anomaly Containment 0492 was quickly cleaned up. It has completely become a meat slag, the kind that cannot be sutured well in any operation. Then, the agents of the two foundations walked up to the epidemic doctor. Hey, well, I'll go with you. The epidemic doctor shrugged and spoke directly. Then, just follow the agents of the Foundation and get on the armed helicopter. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Seeing this scene, inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the agents were stunned. That's it, containment succeeded. No, why didn't the epidemic doctor resist at all, and just follow the Foundation's agent away? If I had known it was so easy to contain successfully, then they should have dispatched S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to continue containment. Suddenly, countless eyes turned to Nick Fury. Did you forget the previous information? Nick Fury sneered, the plague doctor will only be kind to people who have not felt the plague. As for how to judge the plague, we don't know anything. I'm pretty sure if we've dispatched the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, we'll have to add a few more anomalous containment object 0492. There is no other use for it. Middle East. Stark stands alone in the desert. He stared blankly at the armed helicopter going away. Just now, after the epidemic doctor followed the agent of the Foundation, Dr. Yinsen actually followed the epidemic doctor and jumped onto the armed helicopter. Just leave him here alone. But, there's no room in Stark's head for these questions right now. Now he, still in deep shock, it's actually true. In this world, there really are so many weird things. That sculpture, isn't it real? Thinking of this, Stark felt a shudder, when Stark doubted his life. In the light curtain, the information has been updated again. Attachment, Anomalous Containment 049 Plague Doctor, Interaction Experiment Record with Abnormal Containment 682 Indestructible Lizard. Anomalous Containment 049 is locked in 682's containment room. Result. Data deleted. End of experiment. When seeing this string of information, everyone was stunned. Oh my god, the plague doctor actually has an interactive experiment record with the immortal lizard. What the hell is this 682? Don't tell me that after defeating 096, there is still an interaction record with the epidemic doctor and the data is deleted. Speaking of, I'm getting more and more curious about this immortal lizard now. What the hell is this immortal lizard? Wait, since this is also a storage item, maybe we will also take stock of 682 later. Quote. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are also staring wide-eyed. In the data of two consecutive abnormal containment objects, there are even experimental records of interactions with the 682 immortal lizard. This makes them, I can't help but become a little curious about this abnormal containment. I can't even wish. In the light curtain, the video of this abnormal containment 682 can be counted immediately. Asgard, immortal lizard, interesting. Loki's mouth twitched, thinking about it. Listen to the name. The anomalous containment should be a lizard-like creature among Asgard, but there are many non-humanoid creatures. But no matter what it is not enough to look at in front of Fenrir. Loki said confidently, and at this moment, in the light curtain, a bunch of new information was refreshed again. Inventory of the top 10 abnormal containment objects of the Foundation. 7th place. As soon as this paragraph of text came out, it immediately attracted everyone's attention again. Another corner of New York. It's coming again. This time the abnormal containment, I don't know what it is. Caecilius stared at the picture in the light curtain, his eyes sparkled. Ever since he was bewitched by the Dark Latitude and betrayed the Ancient One magician, he has been thinking of replacing Ancient One. Waiting for Dormammu, the king of the Dark Latitudes, to come to the Earth's latitudes. But, as a sorcerer supreme, Ancient One's strength is too strong, far from what he can defeat. Want to complete the plan. It takes a long time to figure it out slowly. But the appearance of this weird foundation gave him hope. At first, he thought that this thing was fake, maybe even made by Ancient One to confuse him deliberately, so he didn't care. However, just now Stark actually appeared in the live broadcast. It made him realize, most of the anomalous containment items in the inventory video of this foundation are real. He immediately went to verify, and finally concluded that the content in this inventory video is not false. At least, the anomalous containment that Stark just experienced was true. If I can get those abnormal containments and make good use of them. Definitely bring the Great Dormammu down early. The next abnormal containment, I must get. Caecilius stared at the light curtain, and said in a low voice. Shield, the 7th anomalous containment inventory. All departments prepare immediately. The moment these data appear, all the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. immediately started to act. The eyes of all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. were extremely complicated. Just saw the Foundation's agent. Then the epidemic doctor was taken in easily. In their hearts, in addition to extreme regret, also aroused the thought of wanting to contain it again. Asgard, a new anomalous containment. Loki's eyes flicker. Until now, he was not sure whether the content in the light curtain was true or not. But, if this is true, it is necessary to go to Earth once. Loki murmured under his breath. And at this time, in the light curtain, the information on the screen has been updated again. 7th place. Abnormal containment 409 crystal vine. Object level. Keter. Then in the light curtain, a picture of huge amounts of quartz crystals appears. On the internet, discussion started in an instant. Yo, this time it's the picture message that appeared first. No matter how you look at it, it's just a quartz crystal. This is what I make at home, and I can find a lot of them casually. I don't know, what kind of ability is this abnormal containment 409 crystal vines? Look, the object level of the anomalous containment this time is actually different from the previous one, Keter. What does this mean? Quote. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. As soon as relevant information appears, agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he immediately took action and began to mobilize all the information related to quartz crystals on the Earth. And Nick Fury, and all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. frowned. What does this Keter mean? How is it different from the previous Euclid? Nick Fury asked, frowning. The 3 abnormal containment objects counted before are all Euclid level. But this time, this abnormal containment 409 has a new level. Whether it's a sculpture, a shy person, or a plague doctor, they are all extremely dangerous abnormal containment objects. Especially the shy one, regardless of whether the content of the video is true or not. But at least it proves that in the eyes of the Foundation, threats of this level are judged to be Euclid. A S.H.I.E.L.D. agent immediately analyzed it, so I think Euclid may be the most dangerous level. Keter, it may be a weaker level. The other agents also nodded in agreement. The previous 3 abnormal containments were too dangerous. A mere quartz crystal, no matter how dangerous. Could it be more dangerous than that shy person who would be chased to death at a glance, and even make Shendu helpless? So this new danger level must be lower. Nick Fury nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. That is to say, the anomalous containment items that the Foundation has checked. How could it be all so dangerous? Then he said, I also agree, you can organize S.H.I.E.L.D. agent to try to contain this abnormal containment. The agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. suddenly showed excitement. They S.H.I.E.L.D. finally got their chance. Can you hold this mysterious abnormal containment in your hand? This time we must let HYDRA's undercover go, this thing must belong to us Hydra. The bald agent muttered in his heart and looked around. In addition to Nick Fury, almost all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. present looked at him and nodded silently. And at this time, on the screen of the light curtain, the information is updated again. A new file. Soon it reappeared on the light curtain. Description. SCP-409 appears to be a large quartz crystal, approximately 1.5 meters high and 0.6 meters wide. Any object that comes into contact with SCP-409 will crystallize within the next 3 hours. The crystallization effect will spread at a speed of 2.5 centimeters per minute, and both the interior and the surface will be crystallized. The infected person reported that the procedure was extremely painful, similar to frostbite. Once this paragraph comes out, countless people's eyes widened in an instant. Frog fun. Something that will be crystallized when you touch it. Is it so hanging? It's like a virus. This is simply a spreading plague. Wait. The plague. Could this be the plague that the plague doctor said before? Good guy. You're actually linked. Wait, tell me, does the crystallization of this vine have any effect on shy people? I don't think so. What a joke. A shy person is something God can't do anything about. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., all the senior executives of S.H.I.E.L.D. who were a little relaxed at first suddenly stared wide-eyed. The properties of this vine seem to. It seems that it is not weaker than the previous 3 abnormal containment objects. They can't help but have some doubts. Is my inference just now correct? After all, this crystal vine is just a crystal and cannot move, so the range of threats it poses is limited, and it may not be comparable to those 3 contained objects. The bald agent deduced. Whether it's sculptures, shy people, or epidemic doctors, they can all mess around. Especially the shy one. Even if they hid on the bottom of the sea, or even on the moon, they would be hunted down to death. From this aspect, the threat that crystal vines can pose, it seems that it is indeed no match for these 3 abnormal containment objects. But it's also extremely dangerous. Nick Fury frowned. If you don't pay attention, it may still cause a big crisis. It must be contained. But halfway through, he suddenly stuck again. This thing will be crystallized as soon as it is touched. How should it be contained? Asgard. A crystal that crystallizes when touched. Loki froze for a moment. In the 9 realms, he remembered that the Frost Titan race had the powerful divine power to freeze everything. With the characteristics of this vine, there are some similarities. If this crystal vine is brought over, can Thor's hammer also be crystallized? Loki's eyes flicker. If possible, that would be so much fun. He can picture Thor's bewildered expression even now. But after thinking about it, he felt that this was unlikely. That hammer was forged from a planet, and with the blessing of Odin, how could it be crystallized? And at this moment, in the picture of the light curtain, the information is updated again. When the crystallization is fully completed, the object will crack and creak for the next 20 minutes, and then suddenly shatter into countless pieces. Any object that comes into contact with the shards will immediately begin to crystallize. Any contacted organism is immune to crystallization, including amputation of affected parts. As soon as this last piece of information appears, everyone who saw this scene froze for a moment. On the Earth's web, relevant discussions boiled over in an instant. God, things that have been crystallized will explode and continue to crystallize. Isn't this a chain reaction? According to this rhythm, wouldn't it be possible for the entire world to be completely crystallized? God bless. It's a good thing this is only virtual. There is no such thing in the real world. It's all over now. You still don't believe that the things in this inventory video are real. Hee. Quote. S.H.I.E.L.D. All the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are all breathless. They stared at the data in the light curtain. His face was full of horror. And a chain reaction. What the hell is this? Nick Fury couldn't help but growl. Not only will it crystallize the object it touches, but after a while, the object will explode, causing a chain reaction. And cutting out the infected part didn't work. Hiss. All the agents couldn't help but gasp. This thing. The degree of danger seems to be far beyond the comparison of the 3 abnormal containment objects before. As long as this is done properly, destroying the world is not a problem. Could it be that their previous inferences were all wrong? Keter is the item level. The threat level is higher than Euclid. Kamar Taj. What the hell is this? This is too scary. It will turn into a crystal when it touches it, and it will last for 3 hours. It feels too hopeless. Can magic resist this thing? Quote. All the magic apprentices felt their scalps tingling for a while. Crystallization, and it will spread wirelessly, just like the plague. Ancient One magician couldn't help murmuring in a low voice. She thought of the plague that the plague doctor said before. Is there any connection between the two? Immediately, she shook her head again, looking at the light curtain solemnly. According to her prediction, if this crystal vine really exists in the Earth dimension, if it is not dealt with in time, it will definitely be a catastrophe. The damage caused by the combination of the 3 abnormal containment objects before is probably not as good as it. At this moment, the picture in the light curtain suddenly changed again. Anomalous Containment 406, Experiment Record. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.